It is September 25th. It is now 7:17, and I'm calling this meeting of the Concordia Student Union Special Council meeting to order. I will begin by reading the Indigenous Solidarity Statement. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that Concordia University is located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Genya-Gehaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. Jojage, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. Now, as I mentioned in the call to order, I cannot technically start this meeting until I receive a motion to appoint me as temporary chair. Is there such a motion from the floor?
A motion to appoint Lori as temporary chair. Victoria.
Excellent. Thank you, Victoria. Seconded by? Arad. Excellent. Okay, this is good. If we read it, if we repeat names, then we get it for the minutes as well. Anyone opposed to this motion? If nobody's opposed, it will pass consensually. Thank you. Seeing as it is a special council meeting, only execs require an excusal. Are any execs not present that have submitted an excusal that I'm not aware of? Chris?
Isaiah's submitted an excusal.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Do we have the reason for the excusal?
Yeah, he has a commitment that he can't get out of.
Okay. Does anybody object to excusing the executive from the special council meeting? If no, yes?
Are we allowed to ask what the reason is, or?
Could you repeat? I
I can give more details. So a long time ago, Isaiah agreed to open mic night with Reggie's, and we decided this meeting by a vote of councillors, right? So he knew that he would not be able to make it on Wednesday. He did not put his availability for Wednesday, and I mean, he made sure to look at the schedule for council meetings for the entire year to make sure there were no conflicts. So this was a commitment that he made in advance. It's a commitment to his organization, Reggie's, of which he's president at the moment. So for him to not show up and not do that would look really, like, it would be really letting his organization down for something that was planned months ago, for something that was spontaneously planned today.
Yes?
Yeah, just wondering, is Des gonna show up? Desiree. Is Desiree going to be present?
Desiree is present. Yeah.
She's just in the back. She's gonna be back. I was helping her get water, so she's coming.
Thanks.
Okay. Again, I don't know any of you. I don't know which execs or councillors are missing. Does anybody have an objection to the one excusal for Isaiah? If nobody objects, we will consider it to have passed consensually. Thank you. First point, election dates. Chris, this agenda point is yours. Is there a presentation to put up? Or
Yeah, it's just a quick motion. I'll explain the reasoning behind it. I'm sorry that I didn't submit it in advance.
Sorry, just
Yes?
are we able to change the agendas? The agenda points? Like,
Are we able to modify the agenda?
yeah.
So in a special council meeting, it's called
Okay.
for a specific reason. You can take things out, as in, we can't discuss this tonight, but you can't add things.
Can
Is
I
there-
switch things?
Is there anything that is related to a point already on the agenda?
My point is,
One at a time.
my point is on the agenda. Well, the Senate point, I would have liked to move it upper in the agenda, if that's possible. But if it's special meeting and that's not how this works at special meeting, that's fine.
We can absolutely move things around for sake of time.
I could speak to why it was there and also like maybe change your mind, but it's up to you. The reason why I put that at the end is because I believe most of the points before it are going to go very fast. So I wanted to get all the mundane, small tasks out of the way, and then we could discuss the bigger stuff at the end. Also, I'm informing you that we won't talk about bathroom renovations. We won't talk about the student. We could talk about those two things, but they'll be very quick, like 10-second updates. I don't have any documents to show today. Sustainability coordinator will be a bit longer.
That's supposed to be in closed session, by the way.
Yeah, that's supposed to be. I thought I submitted closed
thank you.
session.
I'd still like to move it up because
Okay.
it's an urgent matter.
Totally.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, yes.
I wanted to ask because there are some points that are missing from the agenda that we had last week, and since this meeting was called to finish last week's meeting, what happened to those agenda points? It's there was on the agenda there was academic and advocacy minutes, Loyola committee minutes, and clubs and spaces minutes, and those are not on the agenda.
I knew I found out today. I was reminded today that we withdrew academic. I don't remember the Loyola and clubs. That happened?
It's on the modified agenda. If you look at the modified agenda that Caitlin sent in the posted on the group, it's there. So I'm just asking what are we doing about that?
I'm gonna cut the back and forth. We have some people that are again, I don't know you guys, so please let's try and keep things between me. You have a concern about 3 minutes?
Three
that weren't approved?
points that were added to the agenda last week that are now not on the agenda anymore.
Okay. Were they consent agenda points or were they substantive?
They were pulled from the consent agenda into substantive, all three of them.
Okay, so they weren't approved in consent. When this SEM was called, was it automatically for any of the remaining agenda points?
That
or
was
was
the
it?
intention.
Okay. Okay. So if you'd like to include those, is there any urgent reason why you want to cover them tonight?
I just wanted to know when else are we going to talk about them, and since one of them was a work plan and a report from an exec, it would be good to have it approved before the next meeting, maybe.
Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry. Report.
Okay. So is there anything that's time sensitive that can't wait until next regular council?
Yes, there was one thing for the academic and advocacy minutes.
Okay. Would you like to do that one and leave the other two until next time?
Yes,
if they're
that is
not,
fine. That is fine.
urgent? Okay, so that's academic, and advocacy minutes, committee minutes?
No, it's the report.
The report, the executive report. Okay, in the meantime, can somebody from your last document package send that to me? Yeah.
So where do I add it? With the minute keeper.
Where do you add? Oh, you're playing with the mouse and okay. Yeah, I'm looking at a printed copy. So put that down at the end just for now. And again, we're gonna, if so decided, we will we'll move things around so that Senate goes first. You can deal with whatever time you need. Yeah, academic and advocacy court executives minutes, executives report.
We just want to remove CSU purchasing policy, which was my point, just to speed things up a bit, so it's going to be tabled to the next meeting.
Do you want to wait until we get there in case you can cover it? Okay.
And you can remove bathroom renovations plan. I mean, I could do it, but I'd rather be more prepared.
Because we can literally just not talk about an agenda point once we get to it, huh? We don't, to make this easy. If we don't have time at the end of the meeting, you can just not talk about it, and it goes till next meeting. It's automatic, rather than moving things around at the beginning. Same being said, we can also move things earlier if you desire to do so, and you want to vote on that. So I will ask the room, all those in favor of moving the Senate closed session point up to the front of the agenda, raise your placard now. Okay, all those opposed, essentially leaving the agenda point where it is. Okay, so the agenda point has been moved. Thank you. You have that?
Yeah, to the second topic.
Yeah. Awesome. So usually we don't go moving agendas around for special councils. We were starting on election dates. Do you mind if we finish that point first? Okay. So election dates, you guys all received a motion in advance. There's one typo in the motion. At the very bottom, October 14th needs to be October 21st.
It was not submitted in advance, but I want to read it.
It wasn't? Okay.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't submitted in advance, then can we put it up?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Mary,
what I'll
do I
let you
plug
do,
in?
Chris, is I'll let you move the motion. We'll have someone second it, and then you can motivate.
All right,
Okay?
perfect. Actually, it's...
So we'll make sure it's up first, and then you move it. We'll get
Yeah,
a
the
seconder.
correction is October 21st.
Copy it into the agenda.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Okay. So the motion is to allow an earlier election, by-election, for the CSU in 2019.
Sorry.
Yeah. I'll wait. So it's whereas the Chief Electoral Officer has requested permission from the Council of Representatives to hold earlier elections in order to ensure a longer nomination period and increase participation in the upcoming by-elections. Be it resolved that the Council of Representatives, notwithstand sections 245, 246, 296, and 314, in order to allow the CEO to call elections as early as October 21st. So I'll give some context and why it's last minute. So Patrick and I in the summer reached out to Florian, who's the current CEO, and we asked him, hey, is there anything you want to do? And he said he wanted to change some of the ways that elections work. He said he wanted to work on an elections guide, and he also wanted to actively participate in policy committee to make recommendations. He went through the last election. He thought it was very stressful for everyone, for candidates, for himself, for the judicial board, and he wants to avoid all the stress that happened in CSU elections. So one of the things that he thought of was to move the election earlier to allow a very long nomination period. It could be 2 or 3 weeks instead of just 1 week. So that way we have time to put up posters, to encourage people, so people could go around classrooms pointing their signatures around. It's very discouraging to get a form that says, running for council, and I'm like, hey, could I do this? And it's like, nope, expires tomorrow, which usually is the case in my experience. It's a very rushed process, and I personally, despite my disagreements with the CEO, I really thought that was wise. And the reason why we're doing those sections is because they restrict how early an election could be called. So this motion would be waiving those restrictions only for the purpose, as it's stated, to call the election as early as October 21st. So if anybody has any questions, I could take them and then we could vote on the motion.
I didn't catch you quick enough. You motivated before it was seconded. So can I get a seconder for this motion? Irad seconds. Excellent. So there's also a speakers list that has Irad on it. So Irad, you're first.
Thank you. I'm okay with it, but because we're notwithstanding stuff, I just want to know if this is something that we're thinking we're going to redo, keep doing in the future, thus changing the regulations.
One direct response, that's it.
Policy committee is reviewing the elections policy. There is a total revamp. It's not going to be done for the by-election because, now we have fee levy applications. So it's the aim now is the general elections, but it's going to be sent to council. Everybody's going to be able to see it far in advance before anything's done. But yeah, the long term is to change that. Yes.
And I'll ask a second follow-up, right?
I'll stop you on the speakers list. Go ahead.
Okay, and I forgot what it was, so it's okay.
Are there any other questions or comments or issues with this motion? We'll give Irad. Yeah, Victoria?
Does that mean you're moving the whole thing up, or you're just moving up you're changing the length of the nomination period, correct? Everything else is staying the same?
I'll tell you his plan. So everything else will be moved down as well, but not as much. So it's going to end, instead of ending on November 28th, which is the second to last day of school, I believe, it's going to be about 2 weeks earlier. And the reason is so by the time finals are coming, your mind's off the election and people aren't stressing about it. And if there's any judicial board business, there's time to resolve that before you actually get into finals.
Sorry, you said move back, but then you said move front. So what
Sorry, I mean, elections, they're being moved earlier to October 21st for a longer nomination period. And then the actual election dates themselves will be earlier than they currently are, but they won't be as earlier as because the nomination period's way longer, it's not as a significant amount of early.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Is it unclear?
I kind of understand,
Okay.
but I just want to understand how long is the next, during the by-elections, how long will the mandate be for the next person? Coming in as of that time?
Just like when you were elected last year, unfortunately it was postponed weirdly to January, which we never see, right? Usually it happens in November, but the mandate will be until the end of the year.
Okay, and what if... Anyways, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have specific dates for each of those periods?
I have proposed dates, but
Okay.
he doesn't want to finalize on them. I'll pull them up.
Sorry, a reminder, if you flag me with your placard, eye contact, and then I'll write down everyone's name.
Oh, here we go. Okay. So the proposed nomination phase is October 21st to November 4th. And then the campaign phase is November 4th to November 11th. And the voting phase is November 12, 13, and 14. And for the annual general elections, which we don't need to talk about now, he's proposing February 3rd to 21st, which would make it 15 business days, which is way longer. He wants the by-election to be a bit longer, and the annual election to be way longer. The campaigning phase would be after the fall reading week, March 2 to 9, which is 6 business days, and the voting phase would be March 10, 11, and 12.
Great. Uh-huh.
No, that's the thing. I was just saying that it's not. I don't know how it should be clear for it to be expected of us to vote on something without having a precise date. These are like not theoretical things that we're motioning on. So I just needed to know the specifics. So now my only thing is, but you said that this was just a proposal, because November 4th is also the last day to for a late disc. No, it's just it's just like the last day to disc. So that's usually like an academic, really stressful time for people in the by-elections, and so that's also something that we need to take into account.
Actually, if you want to talk to Florian about that in policy committee, which he wants to attend, you could do that. It's at the end of the day, remember, it's not council that calls the election, it's the CEO, but he does want to get your permission to make it earlier. That's because the standing regulations prohibit that. That's what he's asking permission for. But the dates themselves, he still wants to speak with policy committee about that.
I just, and maybe I'm alone on this one, but I just want to express how I feel on this a bit. I think that the elections are placed at a certain time of year, and I understand like maybe it's not convenient for everyone, but at the same time it's been the same way every single year. Maybe moving it up by a week is one thing, but just I don't know. I personally don't feel comfortable moving it up that early. People are still selling to school. There's still things going on. I don't know. That's all I have to say on that.
Excellent. Anybody else want to comment, speak their mind, say their piece? Yeah? Mm-hmm.
I would kind of agree on this because last year during the by-election, it was in the end of November. And what happened after that, like, I believe, like, I was affected during the finals. So, like, after the elections, if there are students who are not getting elected or something like that, like, moving it a week before, like, instead of 28th of November, moving it a week before would be a good idea for students. Just suggestion.
Okay. I'm going to remind everyone, this is a very small, very simple agenda point, and we've spent 20 minutes on it now, so Maha.
Alright, I'll say my point, but then afterwards I hope someone moves to call a question. The thing is I'm just challenged a bit by, okay, so if the main motivation for this motion is to have more student representation, I don't know how this motion will do it. I agree there needs to be more student representation, I just don't know that this is the most effective tactic of it. The CSU needs to have a bigger presence within the student body. We need to have more interactive activities. We need to be seen more and have better exposure. And so that's going to be heavily reliant on our marketing and communications because there is a whole rebranding aspect that's trying to go on right now. But that's the thing. Extending these election dates is not what's going to increase student representation, like the CSU representation with the student body. We need to be a lot more proactive with that. So I'd be more interested in hearing other solutions. Thank you.
Okay. With that being said, there's nobody else who wants to speak, who wants to comment. Everyone said their piece. We're going to move straight to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, raise your placard now. Okay. All those opposed to this motion, raise your placard now. Keep it up until I count. Okay. And all those who are abstaining from this okay, so this motion carries 4-3. 6 of you abstaining. I will just ask, if you're abstaining, if it's for a reason due to clarity, please ask your questions. We're not that pressed for time. So I'd much prefer as a chair to have people voting on something, seeing as you're elected representatives, and have your voice be heard, than to not vote. If you don't have an opinion, that's something totally separate. That's your right. If there's anything that can be cleared up before the vote, don't hesitate, please. Okay, so moving on. The next agenda point that we'd agreed to move up was the closed session Senate. I'll just ask who in the room is not an elected member of the CSU? As in, who's a member of the public? Okay, 4 of you. So I'm going to do my best, and I'm looking you in the eye when I say this, to keep this agenda point short so that you're not waiting for 2 hours outside the room, okay? That's the disadvantage to having it at the beginning and the agenda points after, so please be patient with us. wait outside or wait somewhere else. I would ask that you don't wait too close to the door because I know that these conference rooms are not soundproofed. So please just, we'll respect you, you respect us. And we'll come and get you when we're back in session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are back in session. It is 9:13 p.m. We're moving on with the agenda. We've just completed Senate closed session, and we will move to online opt-out referendum question presentation. The speaker for this is Chris. There is a PowerPoint. We will put it up.
It's not
Oh, no.
It's a Word doc.
There's no PowerPoint?
No.
That's for campaigns. Okay.
All right,
Floor is yours.
Yeah.
Are you
I'll stand.
going to move it? No, you're not moving it. Okay.
No.
Floor is yours.
All right, everybody. So as you know, any member of the CSU could bring a petition of 500 members to the chairperson of the Council of Representatives, a minimum of 5 days before the announcement of the poll, by enacting bylaw 9.6.1. So basically, I'm showing you the petition that I want to do, and then I'm going to get signatures, and then that's it. And my obligation is to show it to the council before I get started. So this is what I have. There's a preamble that explains that you, as a student, pay into fee levy organizations every semester. A fee levy organization is a student-led organization or initiative at Concordia University. They receive all or part of their operating budgets from your student fees. Students have a right to opt out in person to get their money back. Other universities allow you to do this online. And then the next section was put in to explain the limitations that we want to bring online opt-out with. It's the new system would allow you to opt out of each organization individually. Before opting out, students will be informed about what the organization does. The system will be created in consultation with all fee levy organizations. The reason we did this is because we spoke with a few fee levy organizations and they all told us they see it happening anyway, and if it does happen, they want it to happen this way. So they envision a system where you have all the different fee levies, and when you want to opt out, you have to click on it, you have to read the description. For example, the People's Potato feeds people every day, or the Concordian is your newspaper. You're not just going to be able to opt out with no knowledge of what the fee levy organization does. And the final question is, do you support Concordia University bringing the opt-out process online for student fee levy organizations? So that's the presentation. If you have any questions, this is your opportunity to ask them, and then I will be going to petition. Rory, do you want to control the speakers list?
Yeah, floor open for questions. Again, this is not a motion. This is just a notification to council. Yep, go ahead.
Based on my understanding of the standing regulations, any referendum question that has to do with the modification of a fee levy has to be voted on by council and passed by a 2/3 majority. Is that when in this process would that take place?
Yeah, so that question is referring to modifying a fee levy itself, so meaning a monetary amount. So let's say an organization asks for $150 per credit. To modify that, to change it to $160 or to change it to $140, that's what you would need to. This is only an opinion. This modifies nothing whatsoever. This is just asking students, do you want this or do you not want it? And also what it's asking is not within the authority of the CSU. For example, as an opinion question, I could also ask Concordia students, what color is your favorite color? We could do that. It's totally allowed. And the reason you might do that is, oh, well, if we know it's red, then we'll paint everything red or whatever. And you could even use that as a legal backing when you're making decisions. You go, well, the students voted red as their favorite color, so we want to make things red. So what we're doing is we're asking an opinion question, not a modification question.
Victoria?
Sorry, I was chewing. How are you going to ensure that the students are informed about the decisions they're making, as in opting out of these services, and that they know exactly what the service does for them? Because the thing is too is that like a lot of people that pay for these services don't necessarily use them, but the people that use them also can't necessarily afford them. So like, how are you going to balance that?
Wait, you just repeat. Start from the beginning again.
All right. So the first question was essentially, how are you going to ensure that students are aware or informed to make the proper decision on opting out of these services? How are you going to ensure that they know what the service is, what the service is providing, and how are they going to know that, like it's not just money back, because money back is an easy thing to sell, but like these are programs that we literally run on.
Mind if I answer that one first, and then you could ask the second one again?
They're basically the same question, but yeah.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so to answer that one, we're going to make sure by, one of the fee levy organizations, who I will not name because they asked not to be named, they shared with me a system that they believe in, and it basically has a picture of the logo, a text, and it explains what the organization does, and a learn more link that brings you to their website. And in the opt-out interface, that will be available for every different fee levy. And in addition, we're definitely going to be doing a consult. This question binds us to do a consultation with fee levy organizations, in which if they don't feel what we're doing is adequate enough, we'll have to answer to them.
Good. Okay, Naomi?
Can you just remind me what was the bylaw that you were referring to at the top?
9.6.1, it's the second half of it.
Okay. And just to clarify, this is just like you're just asking students what they feel. You're not actually putting questions to referendum.
Yeah, so there's well, we can't because it's not our decision. It's Concordia University's decision. If they go, we still don't feel comfortable doing this, they don't have to do it. It's entirely in their court. The ball's entirely in their court.
Okay.
Are you clear?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. And I know you questioned the bylaw earlier. I do have it in front of me, 9.6.2. Just to remind you that the Council of Representatives shall have no decision-making power regarding the wording of any question presented for discussion, nor over the ability of the promoters to pursue their petition, nor over putting that question to referendum. I'm just going to remind Council that you're arguing, not over the merit of the question because it goes to referendum. It's just a notification. So there's no need to debate whether they're allowed to or what happens afterwards. That's what happens once it goes to referendum. Again, your name?
Emily.
Emily, thank you.
I guess to respond to that, there's the part that I was thinking of was in the standing regulations number 264, I think it is. That's specifically talking about referendums concerning fee levies. It's like separate from the bylaws. And I guess I would disagree that this doesn't count as a modification of a fee levy because we have proof based on statistics from McGill where the online system was implemented in 2009 that fee levy groups lost an average of 10% of their funding after the online system was implemented, which for groups was like between $10,000 and $20,000, which resulted in groups closing, shutting down, loss of student jobs, and that was with a system that they're like with the sentiment that students should still be able to be educated in what's happening, but that was the percentage of students that opted out of all services equally without picking and choosing which ones they actually use. That was just like since then, since 2008. Close to 15% of McGill students have opted out of every fee levy service, which has had massive ramifications for the university. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm kind of concerned about this. And I think that given that we have this proof that these financial issues are going to take place, I don't think that you can say that this doesn't represent a modification of the amount that a fee levy will receive.
May I directly answer that?
Sure.
Yeah, on terms of whether or not it's a modification, it definitely isn't because this question, if 95% of Concordia students say yes, nothing happens. It's just an opinion question. It can't be considered a modification. To your other concerns, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not saying we're passing this. I'm saying we're going to ask the students, and if you firmly believe in your stance, it's totally within your right to bring those concerns to the students and educate them why they should vote no.
Your name?
Tara.
Tara, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak my piece also to lend support to and I also just wanted to say out loud that we can it's just easy to say that there is going to be a way to work into the process that every single person who goes to opt out online is going to be educated efficiently about what each organization does and what the ramifications of opting out blanket wise will be. In practice, that has not happened at most, definitely at McGill, and then also from what I've heard in very less scientific and provable terms, just sort of in conversations that I've had with other people where similar processes have come into place.
Thank you. And I'm just going to remind everyone, I always give priority to guests, so if you're a counselor with a placard, even if you put your hand up first, if a guest wants to speak, we just respect the fact that they're there and they don't have to be. Which means you're next, because you just jumped.
Thanks. I was just wondering when you mentioned consulting with fee levy groups about kind of this whole issue, would it be possible to know which fee levy groups were consulted? And,
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So just, you mentioned consulting with fee levy groups about this and kind of them presenting what might be their ideal scenario. Would it be possible to know which fee levy groups were consulted if they're willing to share that information and even beyond that, like, is there any kind of document summarizing those positions?
Yeah. So to the one fee levy group that I mentioned before, I can't mention them, but this is a referendum question giving us the authorization to move forward with. It grants authorization for the conversation to start, assuming that students want this, right? And if that is the case, we will begin consulting the fee levy organizations. And because it's in the question, we're bound to it as the CSU. Like, if we go forward without consultation, we are breaking this referendum question and therefore breaking the will of the students. So that's why it's there. It's to ensure that it happens.
But have any been consulted yet?
Not yet, because the question hasn't passed, right?
Okay.
If it's a no, then there's no point.
Yeah.
Here's your name for the minutes.
Alex.
Alex. Thank you. And your name?
Fern.
Fern?
Yeah, like your name.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's say theoretically this does pass and you get enough signatures. Can you explain to me what your consultation involves?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a bit of mix. I could give you what I envision, but also I really think that the fee levy organizations themselves should be part of envisioning what that consultation should look at. So what I was thinking is maybe a meeting in a room, just get one representative from every fee levy group. But if the fee levy organizations, on the most part, want something different, or really like know what they want it to look like this, they want a GA format, they want a town hall format, that's fine too. I mean, I'm open to anything as long as there's a consultation, and to me the consultation should be a collaborative effort. It's not just for me to go, it's this way, and leave it to that.
Okay, thank you. Did that answer your question?
Can I add a question?
You can go back after Emily.
Yeah.
Emily?
I think I totally agree. I understand the difference between an opinion poll question and a I don't know, the more logistical question. But I think, and I think it's totally true that students should have the right to collect whatever signatures and vote on referendum. I think referendums are an integral part of the student democratic system, and that the reason we're here is to craft questions that will allow students to express themselves and make informed decisions about their campus. I think the challenge is that the fee levy system and the opt-out system is really complicated, and you have to sit down and have a conversation for a long time to truly understand it. And I don't think that, I think that just making it an online or offline decision simplifies things. I think it can boil down to money really easily, and so even if the question is created with the best of intentions, the way that it's shared and the way it's discussed turns into, do you want $50 back? How easily do you want to get that? When the services that fee levies offer, if they're known about and if students know what they're opting into or out of, can save students hundreds of dollars throughout the semester. So I think that the opt-out process, right now is the opt-out period. I was outside here at an opt-out event on Monday, where we had students come to learn more in person, do the exchange, and get their money back. At Loyola tomorrow, the same event is happening. For 2 weeks, students can come to each group individually and ask for their money back. We've made changes so that students who need accessibility accommodations can receive their funds electronically or by mail. Like, the opt-out system is constantly in flux and has been changing for the 10 years that fee levies have been a situation at Concordia. Each fee levy individually has been created by referendum, has a board of directors, is a registered nonprofit, has financial documents, and a constitution that are available online, has AGMs that are open to everyone. Like, we exist to build a relationship with students and to create a campus together that we're proud of. And that conversation shuts down, I think, if the opt-out system happens at a distance online with no conversation. And so that's what a concern is. I don't think there are no fee levy groups that are against the opt-out system. We believe that students should have the money that they earn, that they deserve, and that they have earned, and that they have a right to discuss what is happening with that money. But I've talked to, so there are 20 to 26 fee levy organizations, depending on faculty and depending where you come from, and I've talked to all of them over the past few years. We've had conversations in different environments, and the fact that we've talked to one group that has one idea makes me really uncomfortable. And I agree, I understand that, to go back, I understand the referendum process is an integral part of student democracy, but I also think that council exists to make sure that this process is effective and is helpful for students. I think creating a referendum question prematurely around a system that's very black and white, that's difficult to discuss, I think that it's too hasty to talk about online opt out specifically, or to take it to the student body immediately. I think that there are ways to revamp and discuss the opt-out system without jumping ahead to a situation that we'll never be able to return from, that will result in a massive loss of services for the students. So that's my point to council, is that I think you are the ones who can make this call, and I don't think that just because it's an opinion situation, I don't think we should skim by that democratic step. That's it. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so again with the consultation, just because I wanted to have some clarification, what are you going to do if the fee levy organizations don't want this?
Well, I wouldn't give up quickly. But at the end of the day, I mean, we got to make our best effort, and if we're full out rejected, I mean, there's nothing we could do. But my whole understanding is it's in no one's interest to not participate in the process, because then you're left behind in creating a better system that will benefit everyone.
Okay. So, thank you for everyone's patience with the guests. Victoria, you were next.
Yeah.
I got you on speakers.
I just wanted to talk about, again, first of all, thank you guys for coming here, and your opinions are extremely, extremely valid and extremely heard, and I do agree with them a lot. I am for opt-out in the sense that, we work for our money, we should have the right for our money. However, these organizations, each one is different, first of all, so each one should be having a different conversation, because cutting out advocacy center, which is something that nobody knows when they're going to need, is kind of for a lot, anyways.
Point of clarification,
yes.
Wouldn't affect the advocacy.
I know it's not necessarily fee levy, but I'm just giving an example. That's something that's important, right? I don't know them all by heart, though I should know all the fee levies by heart, but regardless, it's not something that, it shouldn't be an option whether you opt out or not, just because of a link that you're going to provide. A link is not going to be something that's going to be helpful. I think the way you have this conversation is extremely, extremely vital, and that's what I think they're trying to express, and I think that's something that we all have to consider here, because we can't just say, oh, opt-out's good, we should just give the decision to students, because as a student, if you're telling me I can save $5, I don't really care what the $5 is going for. I'll save that $5 because I don't know anything about campus. I don't know anything else that's going on, and I don't know about the lives of these programs that we have in place are affecting. And I think that's something that's very, very important. And no, it's not necessarily our job to promote what they're doing, but at the same time, it is our job to help create that awareness. And I think having opt-out is not necessarily going to help create more of awareness. It's going to help create more of I'm going to take my money back and kind of just not hold myself accountable to what I'm taking that money away from, realistically. That's just what I wanted to say on that.
Okay, I'm just going to remind everyone that there is no motion on the table. This is just a notification to council. There's no motion. You guys do not need to vote on this. This is a courtesy notification per the bylaws to council. You're not deciding this tonight.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So, I'm not just going to cut everyone off, but I want you to keep that in mind when you question whether you need to put your hand up the second, third, etc. Okay? So just Tara, you're next.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand that this is not a motion to council. When we knew that this was on the agenda, we thought that it would be, it would just give everyone more context to be kind of wider conversation that is happening around this question. If we came and expressed how we feel about it and the way that we've seen these kinds of conversations playing out on campus. One more thing that I do want to add is that also the deliberation on the exact amount for fee levies, in terms of being able to increase or decrease a fee levy amount, is a long and complicated process that has that every single fee levy organization has undergone quite extensively and put a lot of time and effort and work into it, and that an online process would also just kind of in practice blanket undo a lot of that work that has been pursued very carefully and diligently over the course of many years.
Thank you. Amadou?
Is that what you put your placard up for a couple years ago?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were the first people to put placard up.
So, Celeste?
Just good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Elias?
Sorry.
So I just wanted to ask, forgive me, I don't know your name.
Emily?
Emily. So I just wanted to know, to understand well your position. So if I summarize correctly, would you say that you're against the online opt-out process because it would make it too easy and too simple for students to opt out and choose what they do, for fear that it would have a negative repercussion on the organizations of student initiatives?
Yes, I think the phrasing, it's not that I think it would make it too easy. I don't think ease should be an issue in the opt-out process. I think what I'm worried is that it would remove the nuance of it. I think it's not so much whether or not it's easy, it's the conversation that happens around that. I think the current opt-out process involves a human interaction that is totally peaceful and totally respectful, but an acknowledgement of the work that we do and the work that they do and how we can help each other. And I think that moving that interaction online cuts off that human connection, and makes I think right now fee levy groups exist to bring students together and create a campus community, and I think cutting that off at the source before students have a chance to connect with us will make things easier. It's not, see, that's the thing, it's not even about the our budget is fine, we're not financially, personally, that's not the main concern. It's the connection that we have with students and building the community instead of taking a short action that makes sense now that will have repercussions moving forward for the groups that have been building momentum and power and technology and connection for 10 years. Does that make it clear at all?
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Esther?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I think this is a terrible idea. On behalf of a lot of undergraduate students in ASFA that also think it's a terrible idea, I think it would, well, for one, kill jobs, and I think because let's face it, we're students, we're poor, so if we had the solution to opt out, we would. We'd be saving a lot of money, but people who are voting because of online voting, for one, don't necessarily know what opt out means. So I think this is a terrible idea, and we should not continue talking about it.
First, I just want to thank you guys for coming and offering such great insight. I also wanted just a little feedback about how it's like doing the opt-out in person, what that experience is like, and if students tend to be more receptive and actually change their minds by opting out as well.
It's interesting. I mean, we get, 150 to 200 people a semester who opt out. Is that a semester or per year?
I would say it's probably per year, but it does vary.
Yeah, and it varies a lot. And most of those interactions, or all those interactions, are totally respectful. It's either at the opt-out events where groups gather in one place, and it's advertisers, posters around the hall, and students can come for a set time and just go from table to table and show their transcript to show how much money they paid to the fee levy to get the information back. So there's a simple transfer of information. If the students have questions about our services and what we do, then we're happy to share that. We have materials people can take if they want. And it's usually pretty easy to tell whether someone's coming and saying oh, I want to learn more about this, or just I want some money back. There were, I think on Monday, we had about 60 people come through, and 3 or 4 of them had in-depth conversations about what services they wanted or didn't want, or needed or didn't need, and then picked and chose which organizations they wanted to opt out of based on that. But the rest of the students didn't know the names of the organizations, or didn't know, we had our names there and we had our information there, but they didn't look at it or read it. They just passed through and got their money.
Okay, thank you. So if that's all, and there's no motions, which I wouldn't expect there to be, we will move on. Okay? Yes. Everyone's okay? Okay, Strategic Planning Committee creation motion.
Yeah.
You all got this in advance,
No,
did you?
I got it.
Here it is.
Oh, you're going to put it up?
Yeah.
Okay, who's moving? Is it Chris? Are you moving it?
I'll be reading it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, blocks.
Okay. So you don't need to read the whole thing. You can just move the motion. Everyone got it in advance?
No.
No? Okay.
It's okay, I'll be fast.
I believe we did.
Do the be it resolves.
I believe that one we did.
No, actually, they need the context.
Okay.
Okay, so whereas the CSU usually has a yearly turnover of executives and counselors, Whereas the CSU has no longer-term plan beyond the one-year plans that executives and counselors bring with them. Whereas the CSU's general manager has requested that a 5-year strategic plan be developed with all major stakeholders involved in a consultation process to ensure smooth continuation of the CSU and its core identity. Whereas a strategic planning ad hoc committee was formed on April 10th, 2019, comprised of the previous general coordinator, Sophie Hugh Martin, the current general coordinator, Chris Kalfidadis, one counselor, myself, and the general manager, Robert Henry, which is now dissolved. Be resolved that a new strategic planning ad hoc committee be formed immediately, comprised of the general manager, the general coordinator, and 3 counselors. This committee will be dissolved on April 30th, 2020, so by the end of our mandate. And I guess I need a second.
I'll second. Motion, Victoria seconds.
Okay.
Excellent.
Motivation. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it very short. But yeah, basically, as you guys know, for me, turnover is very important. Like, as we change, so does our ideals, but there should be one core identity to what CSU stands for. And this type of strategic planning committee is going to be crucial for it, but it's also going to be important, as stated in the writing, that it consults all the other committees, all the other groups that are involved, to make sure that it's like all of CSU together is moving forward with its identity. So thank you.
Okay, speakers list.
Yeah, so I just want to speak to this motion that Arid presented to me last week. I think it's an amazing idea. The reason is because in all student organizations, you have this crazy turnover where everybody gets elected and then a year passes and they're gone. And while a year might sound a lot to an outsider, anybody who's done it knows how fast it goes and knows how little you could accomplish. And the larger the organization gets, the more difficult the challenge. For a small organization like the PSSA, I mean, all you got to do is have an exec meeting, vote on something, it's done. For CSU, you got a council, you got the student population, you have referendums, elections. All that's for good purpose because it's a lot more money at stake. It's a lot more people's lives at stake. But regardless, things move slower. It's harder to get things done. So what we really need, in my opinion, is a 5-year plan that's going to outlast executive. Something that everyone on all sides of the political spectrum could agree with. Things like making council meetings more efficient, better systems for just better systems for doing basic things, so we don't even have to think about them. It could even be things like creating a steering committee, which most real boards of directors have, which is a committee where they look at the agenda and they kind of organize it and time everything. That's like something that we could look into. So that's the kind of tasks I imagine this committee doing, and maybe even financial responsibility in the long run. So that's why I support it.
Okay, thank you. Maha?
Thank you. I was just, I suppose, a bit curious as to the reason for forming it. So I do agree that we need to have a cohesive vision as a student body. However, I thought that I was under the impression that those were clearly outlined in the CSU's values, mission, and statements, ethics and statements, and so that we should uphold those and all be cohesive about it and uniform about it by hopefully upholding all of those values and codes and ethics in our decisions and the way how we act. So I am still unclear as to the actual roles. Like you say that you want to develop a 5-year plan to do what exactly? Because the general coordinator mentioned a bunch of other things. And so that's what I want to know. Like, what is the actual plan of action here, and how is this ad hoc committee going to somehow make a uniform and cohesive CSU image?
So, yeah, direct response. So I'll tell you a little bit how we started last year's committee with Sophie, and actually Chris was there as well. We looked at all the core services that CSU offers. We looked at their progression, we looked at their strengths and their weaknesses, and we kind of decided, okay, what trajectory do we see them taking in the next 5 years, and how can we get them there? So that was how we started the ad hoc committee under Sophie's leadership. So it can be similar things to that, but essentially it's looking at CSU and all it contains, how are we moving forward with it? Not just one short-term decisions that we're making, but really very long-term overarching decisions. So, for example, the daycare that just opened up, okay, where do we see that daycare 5 years from now? The new building that with the residences, I forgot what it was called. Woodnote. What are we doing with that in the next 5 years? So these are big questions, which of course we can go into more nitty-gritty questions like what Chris mentioned, but the whole purpose is overarching strategies. Okay. I don't know if that clarified everything. Okay.
I just had a question. Can I ask a question directly to her? You were on council for a while, at least 2 years, or oh, never mind. It was
I joined by bylaw.
Oh, okay.
By election.
Well, if anyone was here, I don't know if any counselors were here for like. Oh yeah, Jared. Okay, well, I guess I just wanted to know if one of the counselors who's been here for a long time actually saw a difference, or like with this ad hoc committee, or if it changed anything at all, or not really. It is a 5-year thing, so I guess not. But
it was not soon enough for a committee to have any results yet.
Yeah.
Can I respond, because I was also one of the people behind this whole idea back last year? This is a very novel idea. So, yeah, this was a very... I can't even get in. This is a very novel idea. This is a very novel idea, and I think this is worth exploring. I think you all should vote yes, because in any large organization that has millions of dollars, it's probably good to have like a strategic plan that outlasts every single executive. Like it could be even expansion of services. It could be looking into the long-term plan of a student building. It could be anything. And it's not just like the small little policy details. It's the large organizational questions of how you can better serve students. And are all of you, I think this is a great governance idea. So I hope you vote yes.
Okay. Was there anybody else on this? Yeah?
What kind of specific, can I directly? What specific powers will the committee have, and also will it just be based on recommendations, or will you guys have a budget and have specific decisions to make?
So as far as the motion is written out, and as far as my knowledge goes, but the motion already puts it, there's no budget, there's no executive power associated to it. It's a recommendation platform. So the committee's purpose is to find that strategic direction, but that strategic direction, of course, is not enacted unless council approves it, obviously. And council probably will approve it because we need to get everybody's opinions throughout the committee. So everybody will already have an idea before that motion even comes up, what this strategic direction is going to look like.
One more? Okay, yeah. So I suppose I think it's a good idea. I think my only hesitance was the fact that it was so vague, but you do raise a valid point in the sense that you cannot have a strategic plan already in place or specifics if we haven't approved it yet. However, hearing something would be a bit more, because right now it's like, oh yes, we're going to help make this into a cohesive turnover and all of that, but if there is no actual how-tos, then it makes it a bit harder when you're making an informed decision. So as long as we don't limit the institutions in any way, because that's the thing, we do have a turnover each year. That's because each year visions evolve. People do change their minds, and the people who do come into power are elected, and they are coming in with a vision that they have in mind. So as long as we are not restricting them for carrying out their mandates in any way, and so that is something that we were going to have to be very careful about. But besides those two concerns, I support the motion.
May I move to call the questions?
Absolutely may. We have 1, 2, 3 people left on the speakers list. Anyone who had their hand up to be on the speakers list, does your question or comment prevent you from moving forward with a vote, or is it just an opinion you'd like to voice? And I'm looking specifically at Naomi, Chris, Alex.
Members at large.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an actual question. So
yeah, if it's an actual question, go ahead.
So I understand that this doesn't really, have any cost or any real power, but I'm really trying to understand what will this committee be able to do that the CSU can't do already? Like, what's stopping the CSU from just putting motions that kind of have a let's say a grander vision, why does this specifically need to be created to think long term?
So the purpose of this, just like any other committee, is because we're a lot of counselors and we come by month to make decisions. Okay, I guess you're going to be blocked. We come month by month to make decisions, and we don't have time over here to start asking everybody, okay, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So the whole purpose is we're assigning 3 people plus, I guess, 5 people if you want to say. We're assigning 5 people to search for what is the appropriate solution and then present it. Because we can't do that search over here. It's just not feasible.
Okay.
It's just like any committee, essentially.
Question answer? Yeah, perfect, great. So we did give preference to a guest. You had called the question, Elias. Is anybody against just moving to the vote? Nobody's against just moving to the vote. We're not gonna vote to vote and then vote. We're just gonna vote. Yeah? Okay. As long as everyone consents to that. All those in favor of that motion, that one, the one to create the ad hoc committee, raise your placard now. All those in favor, raise them and keep them up. Okay. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Excellent. Motion carries. Any other points on this topic? Chris?
I'd like the motion to make the appointments to this committee next council meeting.
I second that.
Okay. Victoria seconds. You've got all this now. Okay. Anyone need to speak about this incidental motion?
Nope. We're all good.
You called that one, didn't you? Yeah. All those in favor, raise your placard. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And that one passes as well. Yeah.
Can we move the appointments agenda up, or is that not possible?
Is there something that needs to be moved up? What needs to be moved up?
I would like to move CSU Jobs Campaigns Coordinator position and Hiring Committee up.
Can we just get through everything else?
Yeah, once this is done, obviously.
This is done.
This is done, right?
Okay, this is
Yeah,
done
so
now.
that's why I'm-
Yes, Eduardo?
Sustainability coordinator has to go before that point.
So could we move sustainability up and then right after that, the campaigns coordinator?
I'm gonna ask Maren.
Mental health is like not a discussion. I already had many discussions with a lot of you. I just want to create an ad hoc committee.
Look, there's $10,000 called for that, so I think that's going to be a discussion. Okay.
Okay, well, I want to do all the mental health stuff at once because I think that it's a cohesive theme. And you're going to present, right? There's a 10-minute presentation?
Not for the first motion.
Okay, Mental Health Week, which is 6.
That's
You have a presentation
take
for
off the word week.
Okay.
But mental health ad hoc committee is first.
Yeah.
And that's just a motion to create the committee.
Yeah, and then you have the community center update, yeah?
No, that's part of Chris, but that can go I just want to these stuff shouldn't take long. That's what my issue is because I've already started working on stuff and I just need an answer and I'm scared we won't get to it.
Okay, it's 9:50. Can we get through the mental health and then the sustainability and then the campaigns?
Could you keep
Is everyone
speaking time?
Yeah, is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Do you want to vote on it? Move the agenda?
No. It's good.
Sorry. Hannah, you have the right, if you'd like us to vote on moving that at that point up, we will do so. But we filled the
mental
room.
health be restricted to a certain time?
10 minutes.
Okay.
Do you move to limit discussion to 10 minutes for the next agenda point?
Yes.
Excellent. Can I get a second for that? Naomi seconds it. Is anyone opposed to limiting discussion for the next agenda point to 10 minutes?
Hell no.
If nobody's opposed, it passes consensually. It will be 10 minutes. We're moving on to mental health. Sorry. You opposed?
Take it to maximum 15 minutes.
Okay. All those in favor of limiting discussion to 10 minutes, raise your placard. All those opposed to 10 minutes, raise your placard. Okay, 10 minutes passes. If we get to the end of the 10 minutes and you want to add 5 more, let's do it then, okay?
Also, can we then move sustainability and campaigns up right after mental health?
Is anybody against doing that? That's what we'll do it. Okay. Maren, the floor is yours. This is for the motion, yeah?
The motion for creating an ad hoc committee.
Which is up there, yeah? So it's a presentation.
No, it's not up there. It was in last week's agenda. It was just Marin moves to create.
Can you pull the move? I thought you were doing a presentation.
After I create the committee.
After you do the committee.
I have a presentation.
Okay, so let's put the motion up. We'll move the motion. We'll deal with that, and then you present, yeah? I was thinking the presentation was about the motion, so you do it first.
Isn't it? No. Okay, I found
No?
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not the case. Okay.
Whereas mental health affects many undergraduate students, whereas a student took her life on campus, whereas the CSU should support students and contribute to an environment helping them thrive and build a community, be it resolved the CSU develop a mental health ad hoc committee mandated to carry out a mental health month/week/year, I'm adding that now, develop mental health initiatives and work collaboratively with other student groups advocating for mental health and creating support systems.
Okay, can I get a second? Elizabeth seconds. Okay. You
My
get first.
motivation
Yeah.
is pretty much in the motion. I just want to create like a group of counselors, members at large, executives, anyone who really wants to support and advocate for mental health. A committee where we come together, student groups, and create a collaborative effort to support various initiatives supporting student mental health, especially considering we're going through like a lot in university. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if it's possible to do the presentation first, since like if we it's better to know like what this mental health week would. I'm totally in favor of this, but to know what the mental health week would consist of before we will vote on this motion that already has a committee that would work on this. So have the presentation first and then do the committee.
So the presentation is focused on the 10K. So it's on why we would need a budget for the committee. So without a committee, we don't need a budget. It would be like I'm motioning budget for the air, you know?
Can we then just vote, like do the motion, both motions afterwards? Because we're already like talking about the mental health week, and if we don't know what your plans are for that, I think it's just better to switch that around so that we first do the presentation and then the.
If you prefer, I can take off the mental health week from the motion, so that it's not like mandated specifically, and it's just to really create the committee of people working together to support mental health.
Yeah, but shouldn't we first know what they will be working on? That's what I mean. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I want to clarify this. There are two motions.
Yeah.
You want to do motion 1, presentation, motion 2.
Yes.
Motion 2 about giving them 10 grand is for an ad hoc committee?
For the ad hoc committee to have a working.
Do the week.
No, for everything.
Okay, so totally separate. Just a committee needs a budget to do things. Yeah? Okay. Can we separate that financing of doing things from the specific, create the, and then, okay. So,
I changed it.
Celeste is next.
Yeah, my question was just like, where did the 10,000K go? But it went at the bottom of the page.
Yeah. Desiree?
I rescind. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
remember at all.
Naomi?
Can I call the question? With the amendments or not yet?
No.
Okay, well, I think it's I'm in favor of this. I think it's a good thing. Universities, students, we're like, we have a lot of mental health issues. So this is much needed. And with a budget or without a budget, I think that it's good for like students to know that the CSU is taking mental health like really seriously. So I'm in favor of this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so because we're doing this in the weird format where the presentation's after, without, Marion, actually I'm asking you directly, without the 10K, what does this committee do? Let's say the second motion that we haven't read yet doesn't pass. What does it do?
It would work with other student groups as a representative of the CSU to carry out free events or events that we do have, like we can like try to work with BIPOC on different events, but it would just create events and create what we think students need to increase mental health. Maybe even just talking spaces or psychology services. They have a Zen den or something where it's a free space all throughout the day. We could just hold events that are free and just talk. Like some students, the literal thing that's affecting their mental health is they don't have friends, you know. We could support that, you know. Sorry, you know.
Oh, yeah. Can you go back to the motion?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so it's a committee that carries out mental health events, but like, considering we just gave Mindful Project money, and there's like Stronger Than Stigma, and there's the yoga club, and there's psychology services, and there's health services, what are you going to be doing that's original?
It would be up to the committee, but I think CSU should definitely be supporting mental health in some aspect or another.
But is anybody on CSU qualified enough to create mental health events that wouldn't be potentially detrimental and just do more harm than good?
Well, I'm a student. I know what I need.
Not every student.
Okay, we're going to prevent the back and forth. I'm going to remind you guys that last be it resolved up there, this one, it does say to carry out mental health. Oh, you changed it, eh? There's
I
no
took off week and month.
the week bit. Okay, so your presentation about the week is just a proposal for the week itself, totally separate. This committee can do other things.
Yep.
Esther, Naomi, Esther. Yeah.
Okay, so as someone who suffers from mental health, I think that this is a very good idea, and I've seen I've used the mental health services at Concordia and seen the deep problems that there are there. I think this committee is a very good idea, and there's a lot of work to be done. I would just like to know more about the structure of how it's going to be organized, because it can, there's a lot of work to be done.
Okay, I'm going to remind you guys we have 4 minutes to go, and I have 6 people on the speakers list, and we haven't gotten to motion 2 or the presentation. So if what you have to say does not change your vote or does not change other people's votes, your opinions can be shared after. Naomi?
Can I call a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'll move to call a question.
Anyone opposed to calling to question? If nobody is opposed, I'm going to declare it called consensually. All those in favor of motion number 1, which is up in front of you, raise your placard. All those opposed to motion 1, motion 1 passes. Now,
So my second motion, do I do the motion first or the presentation
your
first?
presentation is about needing 10 grand.
Yeah.
So move it. We'll have it seconded. Present.
Okay, whereas Mental Health Ad Hoc Committee needs funding to develop activity, be it resolved, $10,000 from the endowment fund be allocated to fund a portion of initiatives to be decided by the Mental Health Committee.
Okay, who's seconding? Second from Selma. Okay, presentation. The floor is yours.
Sorry, can I oppose the seconding?
We're not voting yet.
Like, no?
No, later.
No.
Okay.
We just need one other counselor in the room to say that I want to discuss this agenda point, and then you discuss it. Like, it only takes one person.
Okay, so CSU's mental health awareness campaign. So one of the aspects of the mental health campaign that I envision sort of being part of the committee and part of the projects is Post Secret. I'm just gonna click on these links so you guys get a little idea on what Post Secret is. I also want to invite a speaker. So Post Secret is a community website where people send in their secrets anonymously, and every Sunday they're updated. They're very personal, they're very emotional, and they're very honest because they're secret, they're anonymous, and the whole world can see them. So I made a wedding gift but then wasn't invited. Like, that's something that definitely people can relate to. People can be like, oh, maybe I'm not alone. These are like updated weekly, so they're not the same at all. I just want to scroll to the bottom where they do get 8 million views. Yeah, every week. I'm just gonna show you guys 2 minutes of this video that's 10 minutes long. Hopefully the volume works. It should. But this is why I chose this. I should probably start with that. Is because I really connected. The reason why I'm having this committee is because I do suffer from mental health, and I really connected with this video when I was 12 years old and going through the worst time of my life and thought I was alone in the world. These secrets, other people's secrets that related to mine, really got me through the day, I guess. Can you please play? What? So this is a little bit of a TED Talk on what Post Secret is.
It all started with a crazy idea in November of 2004. I printed up 3,000 self-addressed postcards, just like this. They were blank on one side, and on the other side, I listed some simple instructions. I asked people to anonymously share an artful secret they'd never told anyone before. And I handed out these postcards randomly on the streets of Washington, D.C., not knowing what to expect. But soon the idea began spreading virally. People began to buy their own postcards and make their own postcards. I started receiving secrets in my home mailbox, not just with postmarks from Washington, D.C., but from Texas, California, Vancouver, New Zealand, Iraq. Soon my crazy idea didn't seem so crazy. PostSecret.com is the most visited advertisement-free blog in the world. And this is my postcard collection today. You can see my wife struggling to stack a brick of postcards on a pyramid of over 500,000 secrets. What I'd like to do now is share with you a very special handful of secrets from that collection, starting with this one. I found these stamps as a child, and I've been waiting all my life to have someone to send them to. I never did have someone. Secrets can take many forms. They can be shocking, or silly, or soulful. They can connect us to our deepest humanity, or with people we'll never meet.
So that's the little video. I'm just gonna continue. And then he also has a live website where he does a lot of he is a speaker internationally. I drove 9 hours to see him when he came to Mohawk College, and I cried my eyes out the whole time. But I really did feel connected to the people around me. As you know, he's like world renowned, Australia. That's like how many, there's a thing. Yeah, like this is how I guess well known or popular he is, if some of you guys don't know him. So why I chose what Post Secret has a benefit for Concordia is it shares people's different experiences, creates community, because with our secrets we will connect with each other. It builds empathy, like something I sort of reiterate time and time again is that we don't know the struggles other people are going through in their lives. So it does build that empathy, and it does bring an awareness of mental health issues. This is a project I'm gonna start regardless if the budget's there or not, because it's free. I already have that box right there, that Post Secret box. I already have one that I've made, and this is a design that Mari, our designer, made for us, where I'm going to start distributing the postcards. I already am in communication with different organizations on campus who want to support this project in their outreach. So it's you take the postcard, you design it, you put it in our mailbox, which will be in the CSU office and in the Loyola office, and then I'm going to be starting to post them here in the office, in the reception area. We have a little space, and as they expand, we will create like a whole community sort of gallery with these to really build our connection to each other. Who will work on these events, so this is not the only event, the events are in the next slide, is the CSU Mental Health Ad Hoc Committee that just passed 5 minutes ago. We will collaboration with Concordia Stronger Than Stigma, which is a CSU club, and we will collaborate with Psychology Services at Concordia, who I've already spoke to about her Zenden. Why it's costing, it would like 10K is not the max budget for the whole for the whole event, but it's for the speaker itself, and I'm looking for funding elsewhere. But it says here his standard fee is $8,500 USD, but I can be flexible because you are reaching out to me directly and not going through the speaker's bureau. There are also ways of supplementing this cost by selling tickets, books. 100% of the proceeds of tickets and books can use. So this is the max sort of that they charge. I will obviously negotiate this to something that's more affordable, but I did need to create the motion to see what number I do need to negotiate with. I did apply to a funding from the small grants program and other resources on campus. So I am going to seek additional funding from other places to make this happen. So this is what I'm presenting as the budget for the ad hoc committee. But then, because it's to give the committee a budget from the endowment fund, because council has authority over that, but then the committee, I'm hoping, will be the person who actually divides the budget and decides what goes to what, and they determine the breakdown of the budget. Because it's a committee, I believe it has voting power over budget given to us. So we'll do like coffee talks. I want to do 9 events per year, so 1 per month. Remaining months, because we won't have summer months, and we already passed a few months. The booking of the theater, postcard printing, potentially a friendship circle. So these are details about some of the events. So again, to reiterate, it's going to be a collaborative effort with Stronger Than Stigma and Psychology Services, hosting wellness sessions throughout the year in various Zendens across campus. So there's 3 Zendens. There's one at Loyola, one at JMSB, and one in the GM building. Potentially, these are some ideas I have, but I'm hoping the committee would help create more ideas, expand my scope, and work on different events like the friendship circle. We'd need IT equipment, space booking, posters, coffee, maybe hot chocolate, a safe space where people can make friends. I do want to really focus on suicide prevention awareness, and potentially tabling in a community safe space. Again, I'm hoping to have like a budget of $100 per 9 events. That's creating 1 event per month. Potentially bringing in speakers or psychologists for free. I do want to just find one more thing that's on the website. Okay. So something that Frank really focuses on is suicide prevention, and there is a list of resources for internationally, because he's become so internationally renowned, where you can just click and find what community groups are located in Quebec that could help you. And hopefully we can bring more light to those. That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna just exempt like the video and the presentation part from that whole 10 minutes because we said discussion. So the floor is now open. Elizabeth?
Yeah, so I just want to say I like the idea of having this committee. However, I am very wary about the presentation that I just saw because it focused like mostly on this speaker and this speaker's, I guess, business and online initiative. I think that having an ad hoc committee and the budget breakdown that you gave, it had like a very high number for paying the speaker fee. I feel like having this mental health ad hoc committee centered on this current proposal would definitely be doing a disservice to students in terms of their mental health needs. I feel like we should be focusing more on filling the gaps that mental health services at Concordia is not filling. I know specifically in the BIPOC committee, we spoke about having a BIPOC Wellness Week and bringing in BIPOC psychologists like they did last year to come and actually provide students with free services. I think something like expanding that and just like the list of organizations that they presented, I think working directly more with those type of organizations and focusing the ad hoc committee on those type of initiatives would be doing students more of a service. I'm just not sure right now because it seems like this current proposal is centered on having an event with this specific speaker as opposed to focusing on a variety of services we could provide the students over the course of a year. Yeah. That's it.
Can I respond?
Was it a direct question? Was there a direct question?
No, it was more just like referring to this presentation. But like if you
There are 10 people that want to speak to this. Even if I limit you all to 1 minute, we will be well over the 3 minutes that we have left for this 10-minute segment. Okay? Is this an agenda point that perhaps you want to think, and I'm speaking to the next couple people on the speakers list, is this a point that you want to perhaps table, send to a committee, You've now created a committee. Maybe they come back with more proposals, etc. Just letting you guys know, because in like 2-3 people, we're going to need to extend the time. Esther?
I think that, well, looking at the PowerPoint, I see a lot of events which are interesting, but I wanted to. I wanted to see, because like there's problems in the health services now at Concordia, and things like there's construction at the VA building right now, and it's not wheelchair accessible. And I would rather the committee focus on these kind of problems, or the fact that there's only 10 sessions for if you want to go see a counselor. So if we could center our attention more on these problems rather than creating events or doing a bit of both.
Thank you. Hannah? When you are done speaking, we will be at our time limit.
So first off, I think mental health committee is a really good idea. We really need more support for students for mental health issues. But at the same time, I don't know how this plan exactly is going to work, because first off, we have an annual campaign, and it seems like this is almost equivalent to an annual campaign, but we can't have 2 annual campaigns at once. Second, I mean, these events sound interesting, but at the same time, the internal coordinator is obviously going to work on them, but who else will be helping for these? I'm just a little worried that like other staff members, like for example, campaigns assistant, will have to work out and will have to help with this work, or anyone else, or that that we will be doing free labor, which is also in some ways like it's obviously can be really good for your mental health, but it can also be like just doing a lot of free labor can also be detrimental to mental health. So like if we just have one paid person working on this, I think that's not enough, and I don't know like how the capacities are, the human capacity for this. Also, I want to reiterate what Elizabeth said. I think 10,000 is way too much for one speaker. However great they are, that is not really, because that like how many people are going to be able to hear that, as many people as fit into the DB Clark Theater. That is not going to be everyone who has mental health issues. So I don't see the concrete benefit of this. I think it would be better, like my fellow council member said, to focus on actual things that need fixing right now, and I don't think that a speaker can provide for that.
Okay, so we've reached our time limit for this agenda point. Unless I have a motion to extend, or very specifically to extend with parameters.
I move to expand to 5 minutes additional time.
Okay, anybody against that? Okay, 5 minutes it is. I'm giving everyone 60 seconds. Please watch me, because I will give you a 15-second warning, okay? I hate interrupting people. I hate having to interrupt you. But I'll give you the 60 seconds on the clock, and I'll give you a warning, okay? Naomi.
I just wanted to say that I do think that the committee is a really good idea, but I just raised some concerns in regards to like having a budget already set for the committee and having all this like already planned out. Although I do think it's really important, I would be more like willing to have this committee done, and if they need money, then have that committee come back and propose a budget. Whereas having already like this planned budget for people who are not in the committee already and don't really have a say in it. But I do really like the idea, so that's it.
Thank you. Celeste?
I don't like the idea of a suicide prevention day week. There's nothing that you could say to me in a day that would stop me from wanting to kill myself. And even if you were to tell me about all the resources in the world, I know from personal experience that calling suicide hotlines can make you want to kill yourself even more. I would prefer that you just have supplemental, like, psychologists once a week or something, like where we have like 5 hours a day of multiple psychologists that can talk to people. But suicide prevention week is not going to stop me from slitting my wrist, trying to choke myself, whatever I want to feel like doing that week. Yeah.
Thank you. Desiree?
I motion to appoint counselors next meeting to the ad hoc committee, and then they can I don't want to officially motion.
Okay,
Question,
think you
yeah.
want to do that after?
Yeah, maybe.
Mental note.
Yeah.
Okay. Right now, it's just about the money.
Oh, just about the money.
Just the 10K.
Oh, okay, yeah,
The
good
second
point.
motion.
Okay, well then.
After. Elias.
I would like just to perhaps move to amend the motion to make it so that perhaps once the committee has members, that it would go and meet and have more people participate to the planification of the events, of what it could do, to then come back with a revised budget at that time.
Now, that is not an amendment. That is a tabling.
Okay.
And a tabling and a sending to committee.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you want to have this committee with membership, which it doesn't have yet,
Right.
come up with a more detailed proposal to pitch to council again.
That is correct.
That's what you want?
That is correct.
Yep.
That's sort of already in the motion. So right now we're giving the committee $10,000 to divide accordingly. I put my suggested amount, but this is not sort of ratified until the committee decides, because I'm hoping the committee has voting power until the committee decides how to ratify the budget, sort of.
And if council approves 10K for the...
It's from the endowment fund. So right now, for us to get funding from the endowment fund, because we have no funding in endowment fund, because we have no funding in the operations budget at all for everything or for anything. I'm motioning an endowment fund for the committee to then divide accordingly.
I understand. So you're saying just give us the 10K and then we'll decide what to do with it.
And I won't make
Elias
the
is saying
decision
let
alone.
us decide what we want to do with it and then we'll ask for it again. Okay. Now, so clarified, good? There's this clarification's good?
Yeah,
You had it. You had it.
We have the same point. That's why I'm
You were motioning to send it to this committee.
Right.
To come back again in the future, correct?
That's right. What I'm trying to say is I would strongly be in favor of planning out with more people the need for the $10,000 before we give it out.
You started your speaking privilege by moving. You said I want to amend.
That's right.
I want to motion. Okay, so I'm going to consider that a motion.
Okay.
Can we get a second for that? The motion is to send it back to this committee with membership to come back to council with a budget proposal in the future. If you want it to be next council, maybe you make an amendment. If you want it to be 2 councils from now, maybe you make another amendment. Let's move this along, huh? Okay, so it was seconded by Amadou. Any discussion on this motion, which is an incidental motion to send this to committee? Just like you do with a policy, if it came up at council, you could send it to policy committee. Esther?
Yeah, I think, well, in the committee that it's it's good that we all or whoever's in the committee that we speak about it, but I want to know everyone's opinion in council, so I think it's good that we continue speaking about it.
Okay. Would you want this committee to come back and present to council? Because they'd have to, right? They'd have to come back and present with their budget proposal to ask for the money.
Yeah.
Does that cover your concern?
Yeah, we can talk about it when we appoint people.
A point of information.
Yep.
So it wasn't my intention to officially appoint people because I was hoping anyone who wanted to be involved could be involved. So
We haven't gotten there yet. All we've done is
No.
create the committee.
yeah, for that committee,
Yeah.
it's not the intention now that it's created to appoint people. It's just that anyone who's interested can be involved.
Nothing has been said about appointments thus far. So no one's jumping ahead. Just like no money's been given yet, no
But I
one's
mean,
been appointed to it.
we're
We don't
not
even know
appointing
how you
people.
want to appoint people to it.
We're not appointing people.
Okay, these motions, just to back up a little bit, these motions are like doing many, many small, they're all like little bricks. All these motions are little bricks to build this thing that you want, which is your committee that does events and has people on it and whatnot. You started the committee, that was motion 1, that was brick 1. You have another motion to give it some money to do things. And then you need to talk about, people being on it. We haven't gotten to that yet.
But now that the committee's created, I wasn't gonna appoint people to.
Okay, but right now we're talking about just the money itself. So what I'm saying is once we're done with this motion, then if you want to specifically appoint people, you can move to specifically appoint. If you don't, you can say, I move that this committee be filled by consent. Done.
I thought that was already in the motion.
Was it in motion number 1? Yeah, someone check for me because I thought it was.
There's a motion to create the
No, it's not.
committee, that's it.
Okay, the motion was to create the committee. It had nothing to do with the composition nor the appointment of its members. The motion on the table was motion 2 about the funding. The incidental motion is to send that to this committee to come back to council with a proposal in the future. There's no date attached to it. It's been seconded. Is there discussion or argument or objection to that tabling to committee? If not, we will move to vote on that. All those in favor of tabling motion 2, which is about the money, to this committee to come back to council in the future with a budget proposal? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Excellent, it carries. So this will be discussed by your committee, which is a more efficient use of everyone's time. Not to say that unilaterally, but like as of tonight, you'd let a committee do your work for you, huh? Okay. Now, while we're still on this mental health topic, mental health, like there's 3 agenda points here, you want to talk about composition for your committee. Do you need to make it a motion, or do you want to just say my vision is that anyone who wants to be on it is on it?
My vision is that anyone wants to be on it is on it.
Okay, anyone in the room who is interested in being a member on this committee, raise your placard now. Marin will take your name down, and that will be the starting committee. And for the minute's sake, we will have Christine, Elizabeth, Amadou, Esther, and Celeste on the, you got all that?
Oh, just Christian.
Sorry, Christiane, yeah, I wasn't seeing the E at the end. Okay, and Christiane.
Also Rory.
Yep.
It's Melise.
Yeah, it's Melise.
Melise, not Celeste. Thank you. If Guy, you gotta correct me. You guys gotta correct me. Okay. So we're good? You have all the names? So now we have a committee that's been composed. There was no need to argue or move anything for that. Is there anything else about this committee before we move on to the promised agenda points? No? Okay.
Wait, one question.
Are there members at large, or is it just us?
Members at large.
Who are the members at large?
So you're just going to advertise it, and then anyone who wants to attend can attend? Okay. Does
I
anybody...
have one clarification. Amma, did you raise your hand?
Yes, Amadou.
Okay, got you.
Amadou raised his hand as well. Okay. Here's the thing, guys. If you don't move anything, nothing that you potentially would have moved happens. So if you just don't move anything, the way it is how it is. They said they want to appoint anyone they want. Like, you don't have to do anything. Moving on. That was probably very confusing. Moving on. Sustainability coordinator is the next point.
It should be closed.
It should be closed? Okay. There were no documents for this? Where there were documents in advance?
There's nothing in advance, but we have a PowerPoint.
Okay. Can I get a motion, Jared, to go into closed?
Motion to go into closed session.
Yeah, excellent. Anyone oppose? If nobody opposes? Yeah, of course. If nobody opposes, we're now in closed session. I ask any guests to leave the room.
If you ask them directly, then they can help you. Also, yeah, I think it's also extremely irresponsible that the first time that she heard about this was during, like, just because it somehow came up in an external committee meeting, and that also, as she mentioned last week in council, she has until this point not been consulted about what we think is, or what you guys think is best for the position. She's not been consulted on what, in her opinion, should be done, because she has, as my fellow council member said, the most experience for this.
Thank you, Aaron. Aaron? Okay, we'll come back, Maha.
I think this is honestly something that needs a lot more debate, because if you guys want to restructure how the staffers are and how the execs are, because the thing is right now we are already understaffed. We're already underworked. And, overworked, yes. Overworked and understaffed. There we go. So, you guys trying to make sense, like, and try to... I understand where you guys are coming from, however, I do not agree with the proposed model whatsoever. I think that there is a much more efficient way of this being done. The campaign coordinator is there to advocate for students. The fact that you guys want to mix up certain positions, and I find it all completely ridiculous, to be honest. I think that this topic, that this motion needs to be tabled and put onto the next meeting because I want to see more debate on this. The worst part is though, is that it will be just 2 days before the current campaign coordinator will leave. And so that's why I request that when we table this motion for next meeting, that she be present. Because for once, she should absolutely be consulted, and especially when it comes to defining her role, because again, she will understand it a lot more than any of us here in this room. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anna?
Yeah, I think we should table this to another meeting, and ask the current campaigns coordinator to be there for that. Yes.
Okay, to be clear, Jared, are you calling for the orders of the day? There's no motion on the table.
I am motioning to table this to next meeting.
Okay, I'm getting there. There's no motion on the table for this guy.
I'm making that motion right
discussing
now.
back and forth.
I motion to table this to next meeting.
Okay, now, campaigns and sustainability coordinator, these are interrelated or separate issues?
They're separate.
Very separate. Okay, so you move to table this one until October.
Both.
Well, the other one was already tabled.
Yeah.
The other one's tabled? Yes, that's why both.
So this one you want to table as well, the discussion itself. Okay, excellent.
Point of information.
Yes?
Isaiah wants to know if people want coffee. No.
Oh my god. Now he's asking.
Okay, seconded by Naomi. Is anyone opposed to tabling this discussion until next council? With the caveat that insert person's name be invited?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah? Okay, great. Anyone opposed? Passes consensually. It's been tabled. Moving along. Point number 8. Mental Health Community Center update. Marin, is there an update on the community center?
That's Eduardo or Chris.
Eduardo?
That's me.
You? Okay.
Yeah, so Rory, just a quick question. If we wanted to adjourn now, could we do that?
You could adjourn now, but you have another 10 minutes and you have a couple agenda points.
I'd rather just adjourn personally. So
Okay. Anyone opposed to that? Jared's
No,
opposed?
I was about to make that motion.
Anyone opposed to adjourning? Or you have a couple minutes you want to finish off? Okay, there's the Mental Health Community Center update. There's the budgetary impact. You all got the motion in advance for the budgetary
let's be
impact.
realistic. We're going to discuss back and forth, and we're going to be here until 1 o'clock.
Bursary distribution. And then the academic executive report from last council. Why don't you get that one done? It was pulled from consent. Maybe we should get that done? We can get that one done.
Point of order, how much time is left?
Needs to be here. You have another 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes.
And then we adjourn.
Yes. But you guys pulled a report from consent at last meeting. It's been added to tonight's agenda because it needed to be done.
Which one though?
The academic and advocacy.
Actually, though, can we table? Because Victoria was one of the ones who pulled that, and she left already.
Yeah.
So it would be good to have her there for that.
Okay, so that one's table 2. Okay, so there's nothing else that you want to get done tonight.
No. I motion to adjourn.
Okay. Is anyone against adjourning this meeting? If nobody is against adjourning this meeting, I will declare it adjourned. Thank you all for your patience. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.